Hello, and welcome to the Create a Life You Love podcast. I'm your host, Chantal Cox. My purpose is to empower and lift up others who know in their heart they're meant for more. More joy, more impact, and more passion. If you're ready to make a radical transformation and create a life that you love, then you have come to the right place. Let's do this. Hello. Welcome to today's bonus surprise episode of the Create a Life You Love video podcast. And today is kind of a solo episode. It is, in a moment, we're going to move into a replay from a boot camp that's been going on the previous week. So this episode is airing on December 18th, 2021. The week prior, we have done a multi-day boot camp called the Purpose and Impact Boot Camp. This was a pre-boot camp masterclass called Foundations of Success, and it really walks you through the neuro coaching model that I use with my clients and will set you up for success, whether you were part of the boot camp or going to take part in a future boot camp, or it will just set you up for success in your life. So I hope you enjoy it. Depending on when you're catching this, we still have 3 live events, and those will be going down this Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. That is December 19, 20, and 21 of 2021. Now, I'm going to put that link that you would need to register and get access to the boot camp, access to replays, which will be live until January 3rd of 2022, and access to a workbook that will walk you through the activities. And no matter when you're listening to this episode, go to that link and it will either tell you information about an upcoming boot camp. It'll give you access to this current boot camp I'm talking about if it's in the next day or so. Or it will be some type of information and wait list for the next event. So go check out that link and get informed of what's going on depending on when you are listening to this episode. So I hope you enjoy and enjoy the journey. So let's dive in. Our purpose today is to kick off our time together in the boot camp. We are definitely going to have some fun. We're going to build some connection, and we're going to give you the foundational information that sets you up for optimum success, not just in this boot camp, but in your entire life as well. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Chantal Cox. I am an author, a speaker, a transformation neuro coach, and a certified life purpose coach. I specialize in helping women connect with their unique purpose and permanently remove the blocks that have been holding them back so that they can step into their full potential and live an aligned and fulfilling life of impact. And so that is a lot of what we're going to be doing during the boot camp, is going over some of that content, and so you can get started on your journey. So I want to celebrate that you are here today. You are showing up for yourself in a big way. And so those of you with us live, it's Friday evening and you carved out this little bit of time to focus on you. That is huge. Welcome. And if you are watching the replay, I'm super excited for you too. Way to find time to show up for yourself. You can't get different results if you don't do something different. Let's dive into today's content. I'm so excited. Okay, so earlier when I introduced myself, you may have wondered, what the heck is a neuro coach, right? So I had the opportunity to study directly under Dr. Shannon Irvin, who has her PhD in neuropsychology, and she is the creator of the neuro coaching method. And this is the method that I use with my clients so that they can identify and remove the blocks that are holding them back from living the life of their dreams. So this boot camp is not about the neurocoaching method. However, when I was kind of planning and mapping out the content, I just felt like I'd be doing a huge disservice to you if I did not provide the information in some way and tie it all together. So that's what these bonus masterclasses are about. So you want to watch this first one, this pre-boot camp masterclass, to get kind of an understanding, get some things that you're going to be looking for throughout the boot camp. And then we're going to tie it all together and show you what to do with those things on Thursday, December 16th at 6 p.m. Central Time in the post-boot camp masterclass. Okay. So go ahead and tell me in the chat who's heard the terms limiting beliefs or negative self talk or automated thoughts or maybe automated negative thoughts, those pesky ants. So go ahead and tell me in the chat if you've heard of those, maybe which one you tend to use more of, because the way we're going to address it today, they're all kind of very synonymous. There are distinct differences. However, the way we're using them, we're just getting on the same page vocabulary wise, right? Let's see. Jean, you're on with us live. What of those terms are you kind of familiar with?
So I relate to the terminology of limiting beliefs. I think it's just very clear in my mind, like roadblocks there. I'm limiting about what I am capable of doing or the potential of my being. And those are, my beliefs that are are false. And that's why I'm here, so I can work through those things. So I would say my terminology that I'm familiar with is limiting beliefs.
Perfect. Perfect. Yes. And I love that you already touched base on that. That's a perfect lead in to where we're going, that they are false. And so, for anybody else that's watching live or on the replay, we're going to dive a little bit into what Jean means by that. Okay. So, basically, we all have these stories that we tell ourselves about who we are, what we're capable of, limitations that exist, how the world works, all those things, right? And so, no matter how clear you are about what you want in your life or how passionate you are about what goal you're working towards, we all have these pesky limiting beliefs that are eventually going to pop up. And if we don't have the tools and practices in place, they will hold us back. So let's look at an example in case you're like, what is this crazy person talking about, right? So if you have ongoing thoughts in your head that maybe sound something like, well, that's just the way it is. Or here's one of my favorites, oh, there's just not enough time in the day, right? Or how about, well, I can't afford that. That's too expensive. Or how about something like, I'm not good at fill in the blank. Here's one that I know I've struggled with at some point, literally saying, no matter what I do, the weight always comes back. If I'm telling myself that, it's self fulfilled prophecy. Yeah, 100% it's going to come back, right? Um, Things like, I'm just bad with money, or I can't do that because fill in the blank. So these stories have been forming our entire lives. And our brains are constantly taking in messages from our environment. And our brains are designed to do two main things with the messages that it's constantly receiving. So, first, our brain is designed to be highly efficient. And second, our brain is designed to keep us safe. So, we're going to dive into both of those. To the first one, our brains are designed to be highly efficient. So that means that when our brain receives the same messages repeatedly, it says, oh, this must be important. Let's automate it so we don't have to think or process through this the next time it shows up. So think about, like, how many times have you driven to or from somewhere familiar, maybe work, and you don't quite remember actually driving there? You just show up at your destination, right? Well, your brain has automated that task. Kind of cool, kind of terrifying, however you want to look at it. Um, and another thing is, our brains don't decipher if what it's automating is good or bad or right or wrong or even true or false. It just automates it. So then that second part, that our brains are designed to keep us safe. So think back to what we know about, back in the caveman days. And so when leaving the safety of the cave, that would have made you vulnerable to predators. And so our brains have become hardwired with this fight, flight, or freeze response whenever we leave our caves. So luckily, we no longer actually live in caves. um, However, our metaphorical caves are now things like our comfort zone, our habits, and our routines. So when you decide that you want to shake those up and bust out of your comfort zone or create a new habit or create a new routine, our brains fire up this big, like, warning, warning sign that's designed to keep us safe in our established comfort zone. And again, it does not decipher if this new thing is good or bad for us. For example, so if you are maybe in a really unhealthy lifestyle, like maybe you're really overweight and you're getting your numbers and high blood pressure, high cholesterol, all the things, and so you need to make a change, but you're doing things you've never done. So even though the things you are doing are actually healthy and good for you and will potentially prolong your life and give you a better quality of life, your brain doesn't decipher and say, oh, this is a healthy new habit. That's okay. It just says, this is unfamiliar, AKA it's unsafe. Okay. So when it signals those things, oftentimes it ends up presenting itself as procrastination or perfectionism. All right, so I'm going to pause for a second. Any questions so far? Okay. Um, so I want to take this full cycle, everything I gave you, um, through an example, because our brains are really wired to remember stories. So I gave you a lot of context and information, but you'll leave here tonight and be like, what'd she say? I don't remember. So I'm going to give you a story that will help you connect with something in your own story, in your own life examples. So 7.5 years ago, I left an abusive marriage and I had to completely rebuild myself and my life. And at that time, in my early 30s, I picked up my first ever personal development book and I started reading everything that I could get my hands on. And then I slowly started implementing the many, many things that I was learning. And so I ended up having a personal transformation, and my friends and family just really started asking, what have you done and how can I do it? Like they were just saying things like, oh my gosh, you're just so much more confident and happy and healthy, and you walk in the room and you're just like vibrant. Who are you? Right? And they wanted to know how they could get some of that too. And so it was around that time that it dawned on me that the life experiences that I had gone through, partnered with the knowledge that I learned through my own transformation, and then combined with the skills that I had gained from 3 degrees and over a decade of experience in the field of education. All those things could be combined together and used to help others, right? And that's really what this boot camp is about. But back when I was beginning, I tried a few things like starting a YouTube channel, and it just really didn't light me up. It felt like very cumbersome work, right? The editing and trying to make it perfect before getting it out there, right? I'd spend like 20 hours to get a 3-minute YouTube video. It was awful. But then I remembered that I loved writing when I was growing up. So I decided, okay, here it is. I'm going to help others by sharing my story and writing a book, right? So after that initial excitement wore off and I was actually sitting in front of my computer, phase one kicked in and all the limiting beliefs started pouring in. Things like, who the hell do you think you are to write a book, right? And no one's going to read your stupid book. And if your story isn't special enough to share, why don't you go sit down and let the important people impact the world? Or the even more fun thought that would pop up sometimes is, what if someone actually reads your book, right? So that was terrifying. So things like that were trying to keep me safe and not go forward with this new vision that I had created. So thanks to the inner work that I'd already done up to that point, I was able to recognize that and push past those limiting beliefs and keep going. But then phase two kicked in. And all of a sudden, I had done something like marked 4 hours of my Saturday and said I'm going to draft 2 chapters. Yet all of a sudden, there it is at 10 p.m. Saturday night, and I've watched about 10 hours of some meaningless show on Netflix, right? Because my brain kicked in with the procrastination, which was there designed to keep me safe. Writing a book was unfamiliar, therefore unsafe. Binge watching Netflix was very familiar and very safe. And so having the ability to know that that's happening then empowers you to be like, hey, brain, thanks for keeping me safe, but I'm going to go do this thing. It is safe. Okay. So, another thing that really helped was having a super strong, emotionally charged vision. I also hired an amazing coach, and their coaching program had a built in accountability and support system. And so, with all those things combined, I was able to make progress and had a first draft of this book, right? But then in came perfectionism. And that sounded like, oh, why don't you push off the editor for another week or so? This really isn't ready. Nobody can read this yet. You need to read it over again before anybody sees it. Um, just things like that, trying to keep it perfect. And luckily, my coach at the time just kept saying, done is better than perfect. Get your message out there. It doesn't matter. It will never be perfect. And so doing the work with him helped me go ahead and push past that. So, do you have any idea how many books are sitting unpublished and unread due to these exact things? How many dreams go unfulfilled and unseen? Like, this is real, like real life, guys. And so that's what these bonus masterclasses are all about. And we have another person on live with us. Let me let her in real quick. Hello, hello, Raven. Welcome. Um, we are just diving into the content here, so I will keep going, and then after we're done, I can kind of catch you up a little bit. So in our time together today, my goal was to, number one, help you understand how your brain is designed to be efficient and keep you safe. And number two, how to help you start putting these pieces together so that you can rewire the neural networks that are in your brain and you can be fully equipped to get past this cycle as you're exposed to new learning and activities this week in the boot camp. So earlier, I shared that I'd be doing you a disservice if I only presented the Purpose and Impact Bootcamp content, right? And so I really hope that you're beginning to understand that in order to use the information that you're going to gain from the bootcamp, you will also need to have an understanding of the information that we're going to be sharing in these two master classes. So let's talk real quick about how you can use the neuro coaching method, which is the proven brain-based process that you can activate throughout this boot camp and your entire life to set yourself up for optimal success. So each session, you're going to have an action item. I always like to remind myself and my clients about a Japanese proverb that says, vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. I want you to get where you want to go, right? I don't want you to just be living in a daydream and sitting somewhere visualizing this make believe thing, right? I want that to be your reality. And so we are all about partnering action with your vision. And plus bonus points, when you share something about your insights around the action items that you're going to do, when you share those things in the Facebook group, you get points that make you eligible for prizes. Okay, so yay. Okay, so let's talk about what your action item is today. You are going to start noticing the limiting beliefs in your life. And I want you to designate a place to write them down. And I want you to think about what this is going to look like for this next week that we're together. So, is it a notebook that you're going to bring with you places? Is it a piece of paper? Is it maybe a note on your notes app on your phone? What do you need to do to set yourself up for success so that when you notice a limiting belief, you can document it? So, a couple very important keys that I want to point out about this assignment. Your assignment is to notice these thoughts, not to judge them. I encourage you to come at this activity with a curious mind. I want you to think things like, oh, well, isn't that interesting? Okay, don't assign an emotion or assign a judgment to it. You're just noticing. So some examples that might come up that you might want to record are, someone cuts you off in traffic And so you think something like, "Ugh, why is everyone such a terrible driver?" That's an automated thought. We're not going to argue against it. We're not going to prove or disprove it. We're not going to say how it serves us or doesn't serve us. We're noticing and writing down. That's it. Um, or you might be out doing your holiday shopping and you see something and you think, oh, I can't buy that. That's too expensive. It's not true or false. You're just noticing and writing it down. Uh, you're definitely going to begin uncovering a new vision for yourself throughout this boot camp. And you may think things like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. I fill in the blank. You're going to write it down. So, your job throughout this entire boot camp is to notice and write down your automated thoughts. And remember, they are not good or bad. They are not right or wrong. Now is not the time to prove or disprove them. And also, it needs to be in the exact words that you used. So, in the previous example with the driving, if your words were a little more passionate than, why is everyone such a terrible driver? Write those words down. Write the exact words that your brain says. You're not necessarily sharing this with anybody unless you want to. This is for you because you cannot unwire the neural network in your brain, the automated thought, if you don't target the exact automated thought. So it's really important that you write it in the exact words that you use. So if you are watching live or on a replay, wherever you're at, I want you to either say out loud or type in the chat two things. You're going to write notice and write down because that's it, right? Notice and write down. So all you are doing is noticing and writing down your automated thoughts. Okay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so at this point, we've covered our content and we've given the action item. So tomorrow starts day one, where we're going to talk about your unique gifts. And we are going to dive into discovering your unique gifts by exploring your passions and interests from both childhood and adulthood and uncover the skills that you've acquired over your lifetime that have uniquely prepared you to reach your potential and leave an impact in this world. So this will be going down live right here in Zoom, as well as being streamed into the Facebook group, Create a Life You Love Community. It is happening at 1 p.m. Central Time. And so if you are watching this on Facebook and you've not already done so, be sure to register so you have access to the workbook, the schedule, the Zoom links, announcements, prizes, all the things. Okay, so what I want to do today with the remainder of our time is something super fun as a kickoff to the bootcamp event for those of you with us live. And I encourage those of you catching the replay to reflect on these questions as well. However, once I give the directions, I will be ending the live stream and the recording in order to allow any of the live participants to feel very comfortable with anything they'd like to share. So, what we're going to do is we're going to use a structure that fellow educators might recognize as Kagan's Think, Pair, Share. And here's how it works. I'm going to provide a prompt, and you will have 2 minutes to individually think about and make any notes. And then, depending on how many people are with us live at the time, we may move into breakout rooms or we'll stay together as a whole group. And that's where you're going to pair, right? So you think by yourself, then you pair with a small group and talk about what I will give you a prompt of what to discuss, and then we'll reconvene and share as the whole group. So a few guidelines, because depending on how this goes tonight, I'm hoping we can use it again at least one other time throughout our time together in boot camp. And so a few guidelines for anything in boot camp, whether it's on the Facebook page, in the Zoom, anywhere. So number one, what happens at boot camp stays at boot camp, right? And I know you will all be respectful of each other and help contribute to the safe and accepting environment. And number two, you always have the right to pass. So if something comes up, like don't have anxiety about it. You can just simply say pass and everyone will respect that. And there are no right or wrong answers. We all are where we are on our journey. And that's exactly the perfect place that we're supposed to be right now. Okay. So now that you kind of understand what we're going to do, let me tell you kind of the prompts. And so, again, if you are watching the replay, think through these questions that I'm going to pose on your own. Okay. So you'll have 2 minutes to reflect on and write down what your intentions are for this boot camp. And some guiding questions to help you might be, what do I want to get out of the boot camp? Or how do I want to show up for myself? Or what's coming up for me? Like what are any thoughts, questions, or emotions coming up? It's really important to name it and tame it. And that just means when you have an emotion internally and just bouncing around in there, it seems bigger than it is. And when we name it, we get it out in front of us, then we can look at it objectively and logically and take the emotion out of it, process it, and move on, right? So if you are feeling like, oh my gosh, what is this person going to have me do over these next few days? And you're starting to get a little nervous, write that down, okay? Or if you're excited, hopefully there's lots of positive emotions going on. Write them down. What's coming up for you? And then something that one of my current coaches just recently taught me was the question of what's the best that could happen? So think about in this boot camp, in our 6 days together, what's the absolute best thing that could happen? So you're going to have 2 minutes to reflect on that. And I'm going to drop all these questions in both the Facebook and the Zoom chat. You don't have to memorize them. So I'll drop those in there. And so whether you're watching live or the replay, you have time to process those. And then we'll pair and share. And then I'll stick around for any Q&As that anyone might have that's with us live. So before I end the Facebook Live and the recording, are there any clarifying questions about the Think, Pair, Share activity we're about to do? Because if it wasn't clear to you, it probably wasn't clear to others. It's a mistake on my part that I would love to fix. So feel free to unmute or type in the chat if something was unclear. Anything? We're good? Okay, I see a thumbs up. I love it. Okay. So if you are watching the replay and you're like, what was I supposed to reflect on? Just message me and I'll also put it here in the comments. So it'll be there for you as well. Okay, so Facebook streamers, you are welcome to join us in the Zoom for the connection and discussion time. Just head to the link that I dropped in the Facebook chat and you will have access to the Zoom link and you can pop right on. Everyone, please set your calendar time for tomorrow's session at 1 p.m. Central Time. And you're going to do your action item of noticing and writing down, right? Just those two things, noticing and writing down your automated thoughts. And then you're going to share your insights in the Facebook group and start getting points for those prizes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording in the Facebook streaming. So good night, everybody. Enjoy your journey. Wow, I hope you got something valuable out of that episode. If you did, please share it with someone else you think will get value from it. Reach out to me, let me know your biggest insights, and come join us for the Purpose and Impact Bootcamp, whether that's this time around or a future one. Go to the link in the show notes and get the updates of what's going on with it and how you can be a part of it. Since it is a podcast, I'll say it out loud, but it's KhalilRoadmap.com/PIB, and that's CALYL for Create a Life You Love, roadmap.com/PIB, PIB for Purpose Impact Bootcamp. Okay, KhalilRoadmap.com/PIB. Create a Life You Love, roadmap.com/Purpose Impact Bootcamp, but shortened and condensed for your typing pleasures. All right, everybody, enjoy the journey. Reach out, let me know what you think and how I can help. I look forward to connecting with you. Thank you for listening to the Create a Life You Love podcast. I would love to hear from you about your biggest takeaways. Share them with me on Facebook or Instagram at Create a Life You Love Coaching. If you love this podcast, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. That's it for now. Enjoy the journey.